Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another broadcast of the Final Fantasy Randomizer, a special broadcast for the RPGBlitz submission. I am joined in the booth tonight by Duchess. How are you doing tonight, Duchess?
I'm doing great on my side of the world. Hope everyone that's watching is doing the same, because we're going to have a great race tonight for sure.
Absolutely. We have Dark Moon versus Gregglypuff tonight, and we have ourselves a nice speedy seed ready to go. We have ourselves a couple of different strategies going. So we have Dark Moon with a fighter-based strategy and Gregglypuff going for the black belt. So what do you think about either of those strategies going forward?
It's really interesting. They're kind of rolling. The main character, of course, is the fighter in the black belt, and that's how it's going to dictate their strategy. So with Gregglypuff, if he finds a really good tile early on, then he might have an extreme advantage. On the flip, if there's the tail, and then of course like a really good, X-Scowl, something like that, all of a sudden that fighter's looking really, really dope. So it really depends on what the seed gives you. But being honest, I tend to go with black belt strats. Me personally.
Understandable. We have a bit of a divergence as far as that goes, and once everything is good to go, and once we get these guys underway, we will see just what works out. It is worth noting to go ahead and get this thing kick-started, that as I mentioned, this is going to be a bit of a speedier seed, and once these runners officially get underway, then you will see at least a few things as to what we mean by that. So it should be loads of fun for everyone, I think.
Absolutely. And we're off.
All right, so both runners, of course, making their way into the starting towns and on. Notice
level 1 wall.
Absolutely.
Cake.
And the white magic, maybe not quite so commendable, but you do have cake there, so everybody can have themselves a slice if they wish.
Indeed. You've also got slow too, one of the more veteran things to pick up, just in case those fiends look nasty later on. So
absolutely. And both of these runners are definitely seasoned pros, so we'll see how they handle everything that's going to be coming at them. You might have noticed, as Gregglypuff walked outside there, we have a couple of transportation agents waiting around for them, because this seed features a lot of free transportation. The ship is waiting for them, the airship is waiting for them, so they can use that essentially however they wish.
As FFR, the president decided to give us a stimulus and free transportation for everyone. Hooray! So
absolutely. So it looks like we have Dark Moon and Gregglypuff going after Garland both at the same time, and Dark Moon promptly cakes him into submission. Greg rubs him into submission, so Garland goes down quickly to both of them. The king gives us a chime, and Sarah gives us a ruby. I'll be curious to see how quickly these runners turn that in, because we do, of course, have the airship, and they can just go ahead and run over and give that ruby away to the Titan's Trove Giant and get themselves a couple of key items right off the bat.
Indeed. However, Dark Moon looks like it's going to go up check Matoya real quick.
Oh, looks like he's heading back to...
Oh, actually left his floater up there. Sorry about that.
Yeah. I think he may have forgotten about it warping you straight back to Canaria Castle after defeating Garland, so he just had to go back and fetch his transportation.
Good old Provoker.
Alright, let's see what that level 2 magic has in mind. We have Life at level 2.
Life was
White
cool.
Mage. And then we have, Lit 3, so we got ourselves a good sweeper for the Black Mages, and Dark Moon having... Well, both players having 2 of them. It's going to serve them both very well.
And also getting that life is crucial at a level 2 spot, because it's open to everyone. So
yep.
And the red mage can learn it.
Right. So you get some good sustenance and some good spells to just destroy these pirates who are patiently awaiting their destruction.
Looks like Gregglypuff already took care of that with a quick Lit 3. We got ourselves a key. Yes,
all right. Another thing worth noting about the seeds that we have for your perusal today is we do have a shortened Temple of Fiends Revisited, so we will not be going through the entire final dungeon. So strictly speaking, the key is not absolutely necessary, but one of the incentive locations is the locked chests in Canaria Castle, so it could very well be that that chest may have a key item.
Indeed. Shout out to Gregory Puff, by the way, for the memes, buying lamp.
Ah, of course. The memes must always be respected.
Exactly. Housing market's a little bit pricey. Tents are cheap, but cabins and houses are up in the 200 and 900 range, so they won't be closed just yet, but later on they'll start to be able to.
Oh yeah. Alright, so Dark Moon heading back over to Canaria Castle, and looks like Gregory is doing the same thing, going to get those key lock chests and see what awaits in those. See if it's a key item or potentially a dud, because there are 2 duds in this flag set as well.
So far we got some money. Ooh, a ribbon.
Hello.
And yep, that was worth it.
Yep, absolutely. I mean, it would have, to a fair degree, been worth it for just the ribbon alone, but we got the key item out of it too.
So as y'all can see, we are already zooming, which is the nature, of course, of the seed. We don't have to necessarily look and dig out for a floater, et cetera, bridge cross and the like. We've already got an early key, so we can make these checks. We can go to Canaria. We can go, to the Cardia Isles, do that at some point. So it's gonna be an interesting seed. I would think maybe initially Dark Moon might have an advantage on equipment if he finds anything decent for that night. But again, once we find a dope grind tile for Gregory Puff, then the game wins.
Absolutely. And we mentioned it at the outset, but these runners decided to go with 2 very different strategies. So yeah, early equipment may very well tell the story.
And there goes that grind tile I was talking about, Gas D's. Now, right now, you might not be able to handle them, of course, but it's really good to know. 4 green dragons, that's clutch.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, once you get some more levels and get some more durability in some of these light warriors, then yeah, that tile is going to be excellent, especially for getting Gregory's black belt to 32 or 42 or whatever level he chooses to take it today.
Now, will we get some hooray dwarfing today?
That's a good question. For anyone who may not be overly familiar with the randomizer, the first dwarf that you see in this dwarf cave simply says hooray, hooray. And we find it to be a nice little gentlemanly gesture or gentle person gesture to salute the dwarf on the way in or out of the cave.
Absolutely. As we see on Gregory's side, there was Life 2 at level 3, and also Fast at level 3 as well. And I believe Life 2 was learnable by the Red Mage, I believe.
Absolutely, and I think I just saw Fade at level 4, perhaps?
Is that a slot they can learn it? Second one?
I believe it was second slot, so I don't think they can pick that up just yet.
Just yet, but Ice 3 at level 4, that's good to see as well, especially with an early lit 3, so you've got some elemental coverage, and if you get some promotion, you can be able to go back and get that Fade. I do believe.
Alright, it is worth noting that there are different permission levels for the different spells in the game, which is what we were talking about, and it may very well be that Fade may be in a slot that Red Wizard, or Red Mage, or Red Wizard cannot learn, so Fade may be locked out, as it looks to be, but if that is the case, it's unfortunate, but we do have some good sweeper spells for the Black Mages anyhow, so they can still kick butt, no matter what.
No matter what.
Alright, so it looks like Gregory Puff has finished up with his preparations for the Elfland, or at least in Elfland, and it appears he is going to sail over, go ahead and check out a couple more key items first with talking to Sarda over here.
The crystal.
Alright, so he now has good reason to go chat with the lovely Matoya up to the north of Canaria Castle. And I assume he's going to go ahead and turn in that ruby to the Titan and see what it has in store. After getting a little exercise outside.
Like that is key.
Well, of course, exercise is always good to have. Unless you overdo it.
The rod.
Alright, so we have everything that we need to go through the Earth Cave, because the rod is the only item there, or only item that you need to get through there, and Dark Moon picks up his slab from the old men at Crescent Lake. So far, all of the key item checks that our runners have done so far have all worked out pretty well, because they've all gotten good stuff out of them. And so yeah, they've got a few places that they can go should they so wish. Looks like Dark Moon is about to make his Sarda and Titan pickups, so he's going to be pretty much right on course with the key items.
Yep, as Gregory Puff checks and see what Matoya has for us today. The Adamant. So Gregory Puff actually only going in and getting those 2 chests actually saved a little bit of time, because now he can go back to Dwarves and do that Adam turn as well, along with checking all those key lock chests.
Yep, he sure can. I think he's heading over to Crescent Lake just to make sure that he doesn't get the TNT to turn in as well.
Yeah, that would be super awesome. He won't get it in this round, unfortunately, but,
That's still good thinking, though.
Mm-hmm.
As Dark Moon picks up his rod from the Titan, he is now going to, I suspect, head off and turn in that crystal, so... Or he's going to go translate that slab.
And also check level 5 spells. I like it.
Yep.
There's no Zozo Melmon, is there?
No, that is not turned on this flag. Or these flags. These flags were kind to the runners today. Temper and Saber at level 5. Temper will be the more important of those two. And Gregory Puff picking up Fire 3 for his Black Mages, and Brack as well, so he can employ some cheeky Brack strats against a couple of our Fiends.
Not a bad choice. Looks like, however, Nuke probably rolled level 7 or 8.
Yeah, unfortunately.
It's unfortunate, but I mean, you've got everything you really need within your first 4, especially because you've got Life 2 and Life.
Yeah.
You got Lit 2 and Lit 3 and Ice 3, so you should be fine.
Alright, Gregory Puff going into the Earth Cave, and he's going to go check out a couple of grind tiles to see if he can find some more approachable levels than those Fiends. Oh, very much so.
There you go, right? The eyes.
Yep.
Great.
And for anybody who may not be familiar, the eyes are some of the best experience in the game, because not only are they very profitable, they're also very easy to kill. As Gregory is very avidly demonstrating there. So it looks like he is going to go ahead and take advantage of this, and given that he has a black belt that needs to be grinded up some levels, I don't blame him one little bit.
Indeed, this is a great move. He's already jumped up 2 more levels. Once you get those mages up to, say, at least your black mages up to like 16, maybe let your red mage ride with you to 22, 24, and then either leave or, because you can get quite a bit out of this, to be honest. Especially if you have 3 eyes.
Oh yes, absolutely. Now, the black belt that we're looking at, obviously on Gregory Puff's side, as Dark Moon picks up his Adamant, the black belt is worth mentioning because his magic defense is actually better off being stuck in a black belt form until he hits around the mid-30s level-wide. And then he'll have enough magic defense to be good whether he stays as a black belt or whether he's promoted to the upgraded master class. Dark Moon turns in his Adamant, finds one of the 2 duds, and gives us a Hooray Dwarf anyway.
There we go, Dark Moon.
So thank you, Dark Moon. I would like to virtually shake your hand after we get done on the stream. All right, looks like Gregory is doing his magic pickups in Melmond, and Dark Moon is heading into Gaia, one of the last towns in the game, to turn in that bottle and see what the fairy has waiting for us today.
Will we run into another dud?
It's possible. If he does, then we know where both of them are. They don't, but we do. Well, actually, Dark Moon would, because he turned in the adamant first, so...
All true. So that's actually good for him. That's actually good. If I'm Gregory Puff, I'm not going to be too happy to see that, to be honest. I'll throw in the Red Mage, but that's not a bad turnaround. You know where everything else is virtually, so.
Yeah.
And pocket for it.
Yeah. And looks like Gregory Puff is about to get his sharp stick in the eye very soon himself.
Yep. After a bonk.
Oh, we found Nuke. Nuke was at level 7.
Level 7. You know you're not really depending on a level 7 nuke at this point with the black belt, so I kind of see go it.
Not particularly, no. Especially if you're Gregory Puff, you want to turn that black belt into One Punch Man and just essentially watch him virtually nuke everything.
Mm-hmm.
Now, it is worth mentioning also on that subject, as Dark Moon is about to do his slab turn in, so I'll wait till he does that, and then I'll start yakking about the lovely final boss situation.
The canoe.
All right. And it is worth noting in that sense that we have open progression turned off in this seed. So instead of having a dock by the town of Onrak, you need the canoe to be able to get there and to the waterfall. So that canoe is a great deal more necessary in this flag set than it may be in others of the Final Fantasy Randomizer.
I had to do something to offset, the easy peasiness of the seed, right?
Yeah, we couldn't give them all the transportation. I mean, we gave them plenty already, so...
There's the economic stimulus, but the government always leaves a little something out just to make you work for it.
Well, looks like both of them are working out their troubles around the Lefane area. Gregory Puff is making his way to Lefane, and Dark Moon is making his way out.
Now, one interesting thing that we're finding is Dark Moon still has his party around, I think, below level 10, where Gregory Puff obviously has one Dan character, is working up to level, I believe, 18, 19 right now. So that's making a difference in relation to being able to grind as we find the Oxio in the Oasis.
Yep. It is maybe not the exact vanilla item, but it is the vanilla location of the vendor item. But yeah, it's funny you mentioned the level situation because you pretty much took those words right out of my mouth. I was about to say that myself. So, great minds think alike.
Indeed. That's why we're paired, my friend.
Alright, so Dark Moon has made his way into Onrak at least to pick up his dead fighters, and he is likely going to head into the waterfall to see what our poor submerged robot has for us today.
What a lonely life.
Yes.
Built, constructed, thrown in a waterfall, only for the Warriors of Light to see you one time in life and then disappear.
Yes. I think the only game in which robots get treated worse is probably 7th Saga, but then again, everything gets treated worse in 7th Saga.
That was a good one. You ain't lying there.
Alright, Gregory Puff makes his way to the Castle of Ordeals, where he is going to disappoint an old man by not speaking to him, and going to subject himself to the trials of the pillars to see what prize awaits him there.
Indeed, and I don't believe we've seen Warp, so that was probably, another level 7 or level 8 slot?
Most likely. I don't recall seeing it, so that may make this a little bit rough, but we shall see.
Gotta have some trade-offs if you're gonna have, level 2 life and level 4 life too. So.
Oh, yes. Yeah, not all the great spells can land in those first 4 levels. I suppose they could, but they generally won't.
Let's see what we have today. Oh.
Uh-oh. Gregory finding all the wrong exits, all the wrong
Again.
pillars so far. So he's looking for love in all the wrong places.
Try again, my friend.
Yep.
They say third time's a charm.
Mm-hmm. Now, the reason why warp would be important in this, as we were mentioning earlier, is if you use warp, you can actually go back to the last pillar that you entered. And if you happen to have chosen the wrong one, that can take you right back to it, and you can hopefully choose the right one the next time around. So it makes it much, much speedier.
Getting some songs out the way.
Oh, yes. And it looks like Dark Moon is, once he gets past this lonely little chimera here, he will get the chance to talk to the robot, and we will find out what that robot is hiding in the waterfall.
We've got the tail. Dark Moon is going to appreciate that a bit more than Gregory Puff is.
Oh, yes. Yeah, I think Dark Moon is probably going to turn that in immediately.
Mm-hmm.
Now, unfortunately, given that neither competitor has warp or exit, they're both going to have to leg it out of their respective destinations. The longer legging is going to be Dark Moon's, because he's got to go all the way back through this waterfall. But both of them are going to be trekking the hard way to get to their respective key items.
Happens to the best of them.
Oh, well, hey. Again, like we said earlier, exercise is good.
Exactly. Checking the chest, a bit of money, and a wooden shield.
Not very fulfilling, unfortunately, for poor Gregory Puff, but there's still a few more checks to be done before he leaves.
Maid staff, free fire chip.
Yep.
TNT, there you go.
Apparently the trial at Ordeals was to try to blow it up.
Now we've got ourselves a stick of dynamite.
And a dwarf who's ready to use it.
Exactly.
Alright, so Gregory is going to make his way back toward... And I don't believe he's turned in the adamant yet, so he can do both of those turn-ins at the same time. Now, sadly, we already know that one of them is a dud, but still, it's good routing to get both of those turn-ins in at the same time.
Yep, and also that'll give him knowledge as well, because he's also got the Masa.
Yep.
Dark is having a little bit of trouble right now. It's coming down to the levels. Getting there, actually, it's level 16, so don't have too much to...
Yeah, he's kind of getting his experience the hard way. He hasn't, of course, he's not been in Earth Cave yet, so he's not found that grind tile. I get the feeling once he does see it, though, assuming he checks those, I don't know how he will react, but I don't think it will be very well. But he is going to go ahead, at least rest it on rack, and we'll see what Gregory Puff gets out of the TNT turn-in, and it is the herb, so it's time to go chat with an elf prince. Or at least wake him up, anyway. You know, guy's been sleeping all the time. He needs to get up and actually make himself useful for a change.
Exactly.
So, of course, we already know that Dark Moon has obliged us with the Hooray Dwarf, even in the midst of picking up a dud, so we shall see if Gregory Puff is the same manner of gentleman.
Indeed. We're counting on Gregory Puff. You gave us lamp. Oh, you gave us lamp, but no Hooray Dwarf.
Oh, shame on you, sir. Shame on you.
I'm ambivalent about your whole race right now, man.
Yeah, he canceled out the memeing of lamp by refusing the Hooray Dwarf, so I guess I guess we'd have to say it's a push right now.
I mean, if he uses Lamp on Chaos, then all might be forgiven.
Perhaps. Grigglypuff turns in his herb as Darkmoon is checking the chests in the Cardia Isles.
It's 3,391 gold.
Oh, well, I mean, that's technically a dud, but it's actually well, okay, he has $100,000, never mind. I was going to say that actually could be a potentially useful dud, but it increased his net worth by about 1/3%, so maybe not so much.
But as a spectator, you love to see it.
Oh yeah, of course. I mean, that's part of the draw of having a scene when you have duds in it is, well, seeing the reaction when the duds come across the plate.
Cardia Isles didn't look like it produced too much, so Dark is going to go ahead and upgrade. It's like I've been in the gym for a while.
Yep, so Darkmoon, time to grow up. Also, yeah, Grigglypuff on his side is buying some gold bracelets in Crescent Lake, it looks like, so he's got his mages all nice and equipped.
Yeah, I like that. Getting rid of anything useless and just saying, let's go. We're about to grind. I imagine he might go back to the Gas Dragons and start making some noise with them.
Yeah. Either the Gas Dragons or, I mean, he did find those eyes, so I would suspect he'd probably go find those eyes first. Taking a moment to survey his territory and make a decision as to what's next.
It's like a moment of truth.
Yep, and I believe Darkmoon is heading over to make his ordeals play. And it looks like Gregory is probably going to head over and, well, do all of his activities here, which includes getting that Oxyale.
Oh, went a little too crazy on the gold bracelets. All good. You'll get your money in the waterfall.
Yeah. Well, still, I mean, it's not a bad move to go ahead and prioritize the defense, especially of those mages. Because the money can be made up fairly easily. The defense, not so much.
Exactly. You're going to be walking this out, so.
Yep.
Nearing 30 minutes, everyone's just doing their key item checks, getting all those cleared. We're at the point now where pretty much after both respective parties finish doing what they do, I surmise if they don't choose to grind, they're going to start an orb hunt. The only thing we've got left is Crown.
Yeah.
Cube.
Yeah, and there is still, I believe there is one location that we have not seen between both runners, and that is Ice Cave. So that likely has our crown, which I presume would turn into the cube.
That logic makes complete sense to me.
Yeah. I mean, both runners I think would be pretty well prepared to do that at this point, because even though Gregory started out with the levels a little bit earlier because he found that eye grind, Darkmoon has gotten a pretty good number of levels himself with more of a walking grind. So I think both of them would be pretty well equipped to take the struggle of what can potentially be a chaotic ice cave, just depending on what they choose to do.
Indeed, I think they're both equipped enough to be able to handle it at this point.
Grigglypuff finds his tail. Grigglypuff finds his tail and decides to just go ahead and nope out of it. So I think he's contemplating whether to go back in after it, and I believe he is. I think that might have, well, it looks like he might be trying to get some encounters, perhaps. Maybe trying to... I'm not exactly sure what he's doing. I guess he's trying to get some quick levels, but he knows where to get quick levels outside of that.
Yeah, I'm not understanding this play right now.
He might be trying to maybe burn off an encounter or two, perhaps, to work the encounter table.
All right.
Or maybe just getting enough money for that, Oxyale, yeah. That's what it looks like it is, because those two fights got him a pretty good amount of dosh, and then he noped out.
Correct.
So he's going for that Oxyale.
Good play. Don't need the tail. And walking it out actually would have, at that point, wasted him time. So
Yeah.
he got some time. I mean, he had to get the money to buy the Oxyale, but he did actually gain a little bit of time with that move again.
Yeah. And, I mean, as we mentioned earlier, Gregley is not as dependent on the tail as Darkmoon, because Gregley wants to get that black belt up to at least 32 to get that magic defense growth, given that black belt gets it a lot faster than the upgraded master. So, yeah, he knows where the tail is. If he wants to come back and get it, he can get it. But he chooses not to at this point.
Gregory, I believe, is not check Cardia, but will not check Cardia at this point either.
Yep, and Darkmoon is heading down to turn in his TNT, and he will find that he saved it just in case it was a bad pull. As it turns out, it's a good one. Or at least he thinks it's a good one. We know that it's not quite, but that's what we get for being omniscient commentators.
Indeed. Oh, another Hooray Dwarf. There you go, Darkmoon.
Yes, Darkmoon is the gentleman that we all need, the gentleman that perhaps we deserve.
Exactly. I imagine Darkmoon playing with a monocle right now.
If he has a pocket watch, then I think the image is complete.
That's it. He might have actually tilted on the monocle after seeing that 3391.
Perhaps. Just as long as he keeps the pocket watch safe, he's good to go.
Indeed. That's a bit too valuable to be trying to tilt off.
Yep. So Darkmoon making his way into Ice Cave, as Gregley Puff has done. So our runners are just about in sync with each other, which is not too much of a surprise at all, given the quality of both of these runners. They are both fantastic, and it's no surprise at all that they are right on each other's heels.
Yep. Expect. It's really just going to come down to, I guess, if Darkmoon can find dragon armor before, I guess, getting in go mode, they'll be really set just in terms of defense, and so they won't have to depend so much on leveling. Even though you would prefer an X-Scowl, Masa will still get it done. But if not, then Gregory can definitely just do the power level, and then that might be a differential. So I'm really trying to see when that divergence is going to occur. That's going to be interesting.
Yeah. It looks like levels-wise, Gregley Puff still has a few levels advantage over Darkmoon, which, of course, like I said, we found that eye tile, so that's not a surprise.
Gregory going in. I'm checking. Nada. I don't even care. If it's in chest. Wow.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he's going straight out on, I wouldn't quite say go mode, at least not yet, but he's pretty much in no mode because he knows that crown is going to become the cube. Everything else has effectively been spoken for, so he's just gallivanting through and making what he can.
I can't blame him. I can't blame him. I mean, he doesn't have dependence on items as Darkmoon kind of does.
Right. Well, we say he's he's in no mode, but now he is. It looks like he's moved some light warriors around, and he is going to get them down as far as possible on those damage tiles so that he can begin initiating that black belt grind.
But at this point, you could have at least checked those chests over there, Greg. What if you
Hmm.
get a ribbo?
Well, I mean, it's possible he could still go ahead and check. It'd just be a little bit more perilous now. Alright, Dark Moon is making his way up to what we know to be the crown chest. And it looks like Gregley has just about worked everybody down. Looks like his red wizard still has a little bit of HP left. But that will not be the case for long, I don't think.
Nope.
Although he just moved the black belt up to the top, so he may actually be keeping that red mage alive just as a backup, perhaps. Especially for an unrunnable fight like that. So, good thing he did, actually.
Punching all those mummies and juices, no way.
Oh, that would not be fun in the slightest.
Puff getting out of there with the crown.
He's going to go ahead and have himself surely a gentlemanly, civil chat with the king in the Northwest Castle. Because, I mean, why wouldn't you if you brought his crown back to him?
Of course.
Yes, of course.
My goodness of sirs, I found your crown.
Yes, the jewels are mine, and now they shall be yours again. As Dark Moon makes his way out of the ice cave with the crown, he is going to, looks like, head over to Provoca and pick up some magic for his promoted. Well, or at least pick up armor, anyway. Thought he might maybe pick up some level 2 magic for that knight he has now. I suspect he probably will while he's in the neighborhood, but just checking that armor just in case.
Yep. That's Social Blaze getting the job done and actually putting the red mage on his back, so.
Yup. So now all the ingredients are in place for Gregley Puff to begin that black belt grind, and of course he knows the perfect location for it. So I have a feeling we're going to be seeing level 32 on that black belt in a hurry.
Oh yeah. Going right back to it.
Yep. Oh, hey.
There
Why would you not?
Yep, so we know what's going on here. We're going to get to level 32 in a jiffy. Then after that, pretty much game on. Let's blow through everything else. Even if we see a war mech,
we've got enough coverage with Life 2 where we ain't scared of you, bro.
Nope, not a bit. Meanwhile, Dark Moon picked up some gold bracelets over in Crescent Lake, and he is going to turn in his crown and grab his cube. So both of these runners will be completely in go mode momentarily.
Already got level 30. Those 6 eyes done. Insane.
Yep.
Still swinging the Masa.
Yeah, well, I mean, I assume once he gets his black belt up to at least 32 or so, he may, at least I think what he will do in the end is go ahead and switch the Masa, I would suspect, to that red mage, and then just have the black belt, punch free.
Yep. What a grind. Level 34 already.
Yep.
You love to see it. You absolutely love to see it.
Yeah. It looks like he's probably going to go, he may just go all the way to 42 with it. Just turn the black belt into not just one punch man, but one, well, knuckle punch man, I suppose.
Pretty much. At level 42, mate, you can nuke me 2 times and you can hit me with a swirl. I'm not stressing.
And if you want to do that, go ahead. I'm going to try to get the heck out of Dodge if that happens, but at the very least, you could put up with it, sure.
Exactly. I can't begrudge Gregory for this. Every single round, you're getting at least a level. This might get to level 39. At the least, it's going to be 38, and then another one will probably get him to 40 after this.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I mean, well, that got him to 40. So this will probably get him to 42 at least.
Yep. See, and this is why just being partial, this is why I'm more of an advocate of the black belt grind. It does depend on finding something, as we do see a ribbon or Dark Moon side in armor. It does depend on, I guess, finding a tile like this. Because then obviously you can just go off to the races. Where Dark Moon does have to do a bit more of the checking.
Yep.
But in saying that, Rando could have randoed, and Dark Moon could have easily gotten everything he wanted within the first 15 minutes, and then this would have been totally different story.
Right, yeah. That, of course, is part of the black belt fun, I suppose, which is like we've seen in this seed, if you see a very good grind tile that can very quickly expedite such an enterprise, then black belt can become your friend very, very quickly. But if you don't happen to find that grind, then it's a bit more tenuous because you have to get that black belt up in high levels for him to be effective. And without that grind, or without the tile at least, it's a bit more of a grind, and then that can equal things out. But Gregory was able to find it, and he is reaping those rewards exponentially as he goes through the rest of Earth Cave.
Besides a freakish zap off a 3 out of 256, Gregory Puff is going to be good to go.
Yeah. Because part of that magic defense that the black belt has been getting each of those levels, that helps out not just against your ices and your fires, but it also helps against some of the more perfidious spells that you have, the status effect spells, if you will. It doesn't completely prevent them because, of course, as you just mentioned, there's that 3 and 256, but it makes it to where you probably have to land that 3 and 256 for it to be effective. So Gregory Puff essentially is, in his black belt, essentially a walking wrecking ball. It looks like we're going to have a near terminus of Fiend Dungeons pretty much right at the same time, because Dark Moon is getting ready to finish up the volcano, and Gregory Puff is getting pretty close to getting to the end of Earth Cave.
Nice.
So we might see, maybe find simultaneous fiends, just different simultaneous fiends.
Mm-hmm. This is what you expect from top level runners. No matter the strat, they still are within, minutes if not seconds of each other's in terms of play.
Oh yeah, absolutely. As Gregory Puff engages Lich and just punches him to death. Fight over.
10 hits, 864. I'm good.
Yeah. Meanwhile, on Dark Moon's side, it looks like Carrie is hitting fairly hard, but Dark Moon throws his Mass Immune fighter at Carrie, and Carrie goes down in pretty much one smack of the sword, so both runners dealing with their respective fiends with relative ease.
Gregory Puff bringing back the entire squad.
Yep. Well, I mean, he's got the levels that he wants for his black belt, so why not go ahead and bring the rest of them into the game and get them all nice and geared up and start getting them some levels on a little bit more of a walking grind, I would expect, so that they can get some more spell charges.
I don't know if I would have brought up the other black mage, but it's not bad to have it up, even if it's just a meat shield and gains a level or two.
Yeah. Dark Moon heads into the Earth Cave and eschews the spike tiles, so unfortunately he will not see the joy of the eyes today, it would appear.
Feel the pain.
Well, we feel the pain. Dark Moon will feel the pain in post-commentary when he finds out about the missing eyes. Of course, that being said, with a fighter with good armor like an Opal or Dragon armor, if you get them good weaponry and they have high enough absorb, levels don't matter so much for them. So I think he can be fairly content with the levels he has now because I believe he's in the low 20s at this point.
Oh yeah, he should be feeling pretty good. And plus, he's got access to fast and temper at both, good charges. So even if he runs into something, he should be fine. Only thing you might want to see is lock, but it's not really important, being honest.
Yeah. Well, I was gonna say we did see lock too. I'm just not sure if either runner picked it up. I do remember seeing it in the spell list though for I believe one of the shops in Elfland.
Oh well, if it's an Elfland range, then they should be fine.
All right, so yes, confirming that Lock 2 was at level 3. So it was in the first Black Magic shop in Elfland. Now, as to whether either runner picked it up, I am not certain right offhand. I'm pretty sure they did, though, because it would make perfect sense for them to do so.
As we see Greg Puff go off 20 hits, 2,952 damage.
I am rather sorry I was jawing during that. My goodness.
It's like, what? Are you going to break, the damage counter in the game?
Yeah. And it was such a casual hit that I completely missed it. And again, that is the power of a black belt. When you can just brush aside a fiend, which is one of the major bosses in the game, in the amount of effort it would take for you to blink, then you are all good.
Yep. Fear nothing. Now, Gregory Puff will definitely make the trek up Sky, and Gregory Puff, I surmise, is not going to check any of these chests. Hasn't gone for greed this seed, so he's just going to fly up this tower and I presume get that orb really quickly. We'll see if Dark Moon does the same. I don't think they'll check a bunch of chests, but they might check, 6 chests, some greed chests.
Well, we shall find out as Dark Moon confronts Lich and is going to do a full-on fast and temper strategy, which of course makes perfect sense with that Moss Immune fighter. And all 3 of those went in before the hit, so Lich goes down in one fell swoop.
There.
Gregory Puff is making his way through Sky Fortress, and as you mentioned, at least to this point, he ain't checked nothing.
Nope.
And he continues to check a grand total of nothing as he goes past all the green chests. So, going to make his way into Sky Maze as Dark Moon makes his way toward Onrak to have himself a chat with a many-tentacled fiend.
Absolutely. Now, are we going to see our favorite robot chicken friend on Gregory Puff's side coming up soon?
That is a good question. We shall find out in just a moment.
And in case you're wondering, talking about Warman.
Yes. This is the Bridge of Destiny, where you have a chance to run into the hardest regular enemy in the game, Warmech. And oftentimes in this Final Fantasy randomizer, you will find Warmech, well, craving your attentions, shall we say.
What a good way to put it. Oh.
No robots for us, at least for Gregory Puff. Dark Moon, perhaps. We'll see.
Dark Moon getting rid of what we like to call the seafood party pack.
Yes. Meanwhile, Gregory Puff punching Tiamat, and unfortunately Tiamat not onto that first punch as we saw with Lich and Carrie, but it's understandable. Tiamat's got a little bit more muscle, but not that much more muscle apparently.
Not that much.
No,
And
well, when you
24.
get confronted with a 2,000 hit point punch to the face, it's kind of hard for anybody to stand up to that.
Pretty much. Gregory Puff can also be happy. His mages got up to level 24, so they get another. The red mage, I believe, will get another swing, and it also gets some more charges on level 6 as well. So they're pretty good.
Yeah. Well, pretty much any levels that Gregory Puff gets now are just extra gravy on top of the mashed potatoes that he has already made by all of those black belt punches.
You ain't lying. Feels so good to be able to just go mode sky and also sea as well. Don't have to worry about mermaids. Gonna get some cow soon.
Yep, you don't have to worry about mermaids. You don't have to worry about chasing around these different floors looking for all those treasure chests, which is particularly pernicious in the sea dungeon. So our runners aren't quite going to shake hands, but they're at least in the same zip code. So hopefully they'll social distance, keep themselves apart enough to where they're good to go. But they are confronting the same sea fiends, or the same sea monsters at the same time.
Even the Warriors of Light practice social distancing.
As Dark Moon takes on Kraken, who is trying to spit ink at them. Doesn't do much. They're getting that fighter basically ready to go to start slashing at things. And tossing out lit threes as well, and Kraken goes down on Dark Moon's side, with Gregory Puff soon to punch the tentacled one into submission.
And already Gregory Puff will be at 4 orbs.
Yep. I don't think Dark Moon is going to be too terribly far behind, because I don't see him doing a whole lot of chest opening in Sky, but there is at least going to be a little bit of that difference.
Final preparations, getting some freeze off. We're ready to go.
Alright, so Gregory Puff again, of course, following the fast and temper strategy, and one punch from the black belt, and down he goes. So Gregory Puff gets that 4th orb lit at about 51 minutes, and the Temple of Fiends Revisited awaits his black belt's very steely gaze.
Indeed. And I think I saw 89 heal pots, so I don't even think they need to go shopping anymore.
Well, it's a shortened Topher, so once he steps in to that opened orb, he will find himself on the final floor. So you don't even really need to worry about the heal pots all that much in this case.
Excuse me.
Gesundheit. All the same, Gregory going to do a little bit of preparation, picking up a last helping of temper. I think he didn't have it on one of those black belts, so he decided to rectify that before heading into Topher.
Can't go wrong, if it helps, get an extra off of temper, why not?
Absolutely. And so with that, Gregory Puff makes his way into the Temple of Fiends Revisited, officially right about the 52-minute mark, where he confronts Lich once again and punches Lich to death again. He is just making mincemeat of these fiends, my goodness. So he confronts the second carry and punches the second carry to death just like that.
See, yeah.
Well, definitely wouldn't want to be the fiends in this case, that's for sure.
Nope.
So Gregory Puff confronts Chaos, and we have alternate final bosses. So there's not just a single Chaos, there is multiple fiends. We find we had a bunch of phantoms and a couple of liches to cause a few problems for Gregory Puff.
We want to get those phantoms out of here as soon as possible, because they be all statusy and whatnot.
Oh yes, absolutely. And they hit hard too. Now, this is what we call the alternate final boss's flag, and it can cause some real problems for a strategy like this. This is where the black belt dependent strategy can go bad, as Gregory Puff is discovering, because if you don't have a black belt, or if you don't have a party that can amply deal with multiple fiends at once, or multiple bosses at once effectively, it can go down, as Gregley's just did. So, whereas he had been punching through everything to begin with, not so much this time. And he got the unfortunate side of that second Lich fight as well, because one of his black belt, or one of his black mages went down, and Carrie almost punched the red mage down. So this is not good for Gregory Puff.
Not the greatest. Thankfully, we have so that will give us some type of application to the black belt for defense. But yeah, this is where we got Warmack on Dark Moon side. Let me stop what I'm talking about.
Yep, that's why I'd stopped talking too, because I'm like, okay, so let's let him talk about Warmack.
So we're tempering up, throwing out a Quake, ineffective. Another ruse. We are definitely pulling out the Rodney Dangerfield strats. We must respect the robot chicken. Ruse and Lick 3 coming out on Gregory Puff's side. Some AoE to try to get those phantoms. Looks like we're finally going to take a hit with the slow 2. Not the greatest, but it hit the knight. More stacks of temper, 740. Gregory Puff managing to get one of those phantoms down, so down to one more phantom and 2 liches. Ooh, and Warmack is down on Dark Moon's side. GG.
And that looks like it gets his levels up into the late 20s. So it is... Alright, so we have on Gregory's side, he's got 1 Lich left and a black belt left. And with 26 HP left on his black belt, Gregory Puff takes down Chaos Lich at an official SRL time of 55 minutes and 32 seconds. GG, Gregory Puff.
Wow, GG indeed. Down to virtually the last round with that damage poison, only giving up 26 left. That was clutch.
Oh, absolutely. And it looks like we are joined in chat by Gregory Puff. GG, Gregory Puff.
Oh my gosh, thank you guys so much. GG's.
Absolutely. So when you were getting ready for this seed, you had, of course, chosen the black belt as your main fighter, and with the predication that you would hopefully find a good grind tile and be able to get that black belt up quickly, and boy, did you ever.
Yeah, that eye tile right inside of Earth Hall of Giants was really fantastic. And of course, I wanted to make sure that I could get enough key items to maximize that grind.
Oh, sure. And it's worth noting on the other side of things, Dark Moon actually never looked at the Earth grind tiles. He went in and he just basically go-moded it. So, unfortunately, he didn't find the eyes. They escaped him today. As Dark Moon enters Topher at right before the 57-minute mark, so he is pretty quick on the heels.
It was also interesting in that Gregory Puff, it looks like, ooh, he's going right where you went left. It was interesting in that you made a bit more, I guess, micro, I don't know the word, but you did things in a manner where you only had to go see the dwarves like minimal amount of times. You just did things in such a manner where you saved a bit more time doing checks because you decided I'm gonna search for things so that I don't have to double back on them. So,
well, it's funny that you guys noticed that. I mean, there was a part of me that kind of forgot that I had the adamant, and then I had specifically not turned in the adamant so that I could get the TNT. And then when I got the TNT, I was like, oh yeah, that's why I didn't do the adamant turn in. And then I forgot Ice Cave was a thing, which is why about halfway through the thing, you guys probably noticed that I was staring at my miniature and trying to figure out what I was missing. But once we got there, I got to Ice Cave. I danned off the rest of my characters because I knew I was going to do the grind. Did my crown turn in, got the cube, and then went on ahead and moved on. And I know with the alternative bosses, black belt struts may not be the greatest thing in the history of time, but it ended up working out okay for me. I mean, that's a tough alt boss. I mean, Lich with nuke and Inferno and all kinds of nonsense, and phantoms that hit very hard with a lot of HP. That's a tough battle.
Oh, absolutely. And Dark Moon is heading into that alternate final boss now, so he looks like he is contemplating some harm strats on the phantoms and instead choosing to go ahead and get that fighter ready. So I suspect he's going to have the fighter. Yeah, it looks like he's getting the fighter ready to, I suspect, go after those liches and perhaps use Harm 3 on the phantoms later, or maybe it isn't going to use Harm 3. Unfortunately, the liches also have Stop, which looks like it stunned both of his black mages, so that sadly makes things a little bit less viable for what he was trying to do. So, ooh, dear.
Yeah, I think it was Stop first and then Nuke after that. And then I know that their first skill was Inferno, so they did not mess around those particular nukes or those liches.
Oh, yeah. And Dark Moon's party goes down in a hail of hits, so he is going to have to go back into Topher and try again.
And I think one of those phantoms critted one of my characters for nearly 400 HP, so those phantoms were not messing around.
Oh, no, absolutely not. I mean, we were watching it on your end. Unfortunately, I feel like it was the only really bad thing outside of, like you mentioned, that moment when you were contemplating, okay, what do I have left? I feel like that was really the only bad moment in this seed for you, because everything else, I mean, especially once you found that eye grind and you knew what your strategy was going to be from there, I think you were pretty much good to go for most everything else. Yeah.
I was looking for warp and exit, and of course, I never saw exit or warp, so I have no idea where they were. They had to have been level 7 or 8, not in Gaia. And I was hoping for one of those two before I went into Ice Cave, and I just forgot that I hadn't gone to Ice Cave, so I had to look over and be like, where have I not been? And that just ended up being the situation where I forgot a particular dungeon because I wanted to wait until I had an easy way out of said dungeon, because I was never checking chests outside of money, gear, and I got a ribbon pretty early on, so.
Even so, you still managed to go in Ice Cave about 30 seconds before Dark Moon.
Yeah, there were a couple of times in this seed that, I mean, as to be expected with runners of y'all's quality, you guys were not quite handshaking, but you were pretty close to each other, so it was fun to see, as per usual in this sort of a seed, as Dark Moon takes his second swing at the alternate boss and has put up a whole bunch of ruses, but just got critted through, and is still up, but not by much. So we'll see if he can get these phantoms and liches down, or if they get him down first, and they do indeed take him down a second time.
Yeah, those phantoms hit really hard. Phantoms hit hard in general, but they hit really hard in this particular seed.
Oh yes, yeah, they've been, unfortunately, they've been giving Dark Moon the business, so it looks like he's going to go back to those grind tiles at Northwest Castle and see about getting some more levels, which I don't blame him on. It's, especially when they punch so hard,
What's the Northwest Castle that he's trying to grind on?
Looks like he's pulled up the Seafood Party Pack on the left-right grind.
Oh, so he didn't check any grind tiles at all, because he's running fighter, right?
Right. Yeah. He did check a few here and there, but he didn't go out of his way to do it, which is why he didn't see that eye grind.
It's hard to leave Hall of Giants on the table, no matter what you're looking at, no matter what's going on in your life.
Yeah.
That's the original. You know, it's hard to just walk away from the OG.
I was going to say OG being a particularly good set of initials there, the original grind.
Well, everyone knows the original grind is the I-tile to begin with.
Fair.
Yeah.
That being said, unfortunately, you could only find one of them there, and in the randomizer, you can find up to 3, which you did several times.
Yeah, I mean, I tested the Gasties first because I found them in Tofla. And I didn't have Ice 3, I didn't have Nuke, I didn't have a way to really take them down, but I just wanted to see how much HP they had because they can roll pretty low with these particular flags. And unfortunately, they did not roll low, so I took a wipe there. But then I saw the eyes when I went to do the slab turn-in and popped into Earth Cave, and I was like, okay, this is where I will grind. I'm going to get myself into go mode because you start to see it in no mode because all you need to do is just hit up all the incentive locations and you'll be in go mode. But there's 2 dud items, right?
Right.
So you want to make sure that you get all the key items so that you get the extra 10% per key item. And
yeah, that grind worked out really well for you in just about every facet except for that alternate boss. It looks like Dark Moon is going to be grinding up one of the fighters in one of his black mages, so it'll be curious to see how far he decides to take this. Because he's, I think he was 31, 32 with those 2 coming out of that last fight. So he'll probably, he's up to 32 now, so we'll see how far he ultimately ends up taking it.
This was an unusual scene because particularly with this flag set, you'll see the duds kind of later on, and I felt like the duds happened on the earlier side. Like there were certain areas you had to do that are post canoe, so it's interesting to see the tail and waterfall, and me finding both of the duds.
Yeah, both of you found both of the duds, so y'all both got to experience the joy of finding cash in the hands of the dwarf blacksmith and the elf prince.
Yeah, it was a heal pot and some cash, and I was like, really?
Yeah.
This is what's really happening?
Yeah, so congratulations, you found my adamant that I can make the best sword in the game with. Here's a potion. And congrats, you found my herb, which woke me up and allowed me to rule my kingdom again. Here's some couch cash. Alright, so it looks like Dark Moon it looks like he's content with his grind out of the Seafood Party Pack, so he's going to see if he could pick up Fade. Turns out he could not, so I assume now he's just going to head back up to Topher after grabbing a quick nap at the inn and maybe a quick supply run. Spell run, it looks like. And then go about his business from there, which is understandable. Picks up Harm 3 for the fighter, and I believe he's pretty content with what he's got.
Third time's a charm.
Let's certainly hope so. It seems like one thing I think we'll find as a commonality between you two is how much the alternate final boss forced a bit of a shift in, maybe you could say a shift in strategy, but certainly it changed the dynamic of the race a little bit, because it was obviously them being able to punch your lights out and cast some lovely spells at you. Certainly mixed things up toward the end.
Yeah, I mean, with this particular flag set and where the spells landed, I'd have to say that the Fun Dead Party Pack, or all the undead people with the 2 Lich Stews and the 4 Phantoms, is the absolute worst thing you want to see. because of how hard the Phantoms hit and the fact that Lich is a final boss. Therefore, he could potentially roll spells or
Yeah.
skills, whatever.
Yeah.
And I think that the Phantoms and Lich actually get a boost in their stats when the alternative final boss thing is turned on. So they're even tougher than they normally would be.
Oh, that's always fun. Just in case it wasn't bad enough, now it's worse.
Yeah, pretty much. And I mean, that goes to show, like I said, those Phantoms were not messing around. If they could land a hit, it was pretty ugly. They hit for around 200 HP each time. And then, of course, Lich was pretty spell and skill happy. I mean, you know, the first spell being Stop, the second spell being Nuke, and the first skill being Inferno, which is, you know, a fire elemental, but I only had one ribbon because I just wanted to keep a ribbon on my red mage.
Yeah. Dark Moon has engaged his third try at the Lich Phantom fight and used Cake to take down one of the Liches, so at least things are a little bit less painful for now as he is rusing his fighter to take the majority of those attacks. Unfortunately, the red mage has gone down in a heap of flaw, so we shall see if Cake takes care of anybody else. It does not, unfortunately. Second Cake is not effective either, so unfortunately Dark Moon is not getting the most beneficial spell rolls in this one.
Getting the opportunity though to get that fighter tempered up and fasted up though is actually pretty good. So
Oh yeah.
98. Gotta start swinging.
Yeah, he's having some not so fun luck with those crits too, because I had noticed during those last couple of tries that oh god. Oh no. The nuke landed and took out the party, so now we have attempt number 4.
Yeah, they crit too. Like, I know they crit one of my guys for like an insane amount of damage.
Yeah, it's like you said, this is not fun and the slightest. It's been a slog for both of you trying to take down those last fiends, and unfortunately what Dark Moon is seeing also is the wrong end of Lich's attack, of OG Lich's attacks, I guess, or OG Lich 2, I suppose, because he's suddenly getting Infernoed and all that bad stuff, so
Yeah, the worst thing you got to see from Lich 2, at least in the original game, is the 2 nukes that he has in his chamber. The first nuke that he has, but he has a pretty he has a high chance to cast it. But the Inferno on the skill side, plus the stop with the lack of ribbons, I mean, Lich is pretty tough here in this particular run.
Oh yes, yeah, it's definitely proving to be, as much as we were touting this to be a speedy seed, and in large part it has been, this last boss has been so much of a wall for. I mean, you were able, fortunately, to basically punch down the wall. Sadly, Dark Moon has not been able to cut the wall down all that easily, so we'll see if fourth time is the charm, as it were. Definitely taking some very measured steps to prepare his party and make sure everybody is good to go on this attempt. So it looks like he's going to eschew the Quake stats and just go straight for Lit 3 on at least the Black Mages, who, well, unfortunately, one of whom promptly gets punched to death. And then the other gets punched to death. Oh dear.
Oh my goodness.
Oh. Yeah, this is some real heartache for Dark Moon. My heavens.
Yeah.
At the very least, that stop didn't hit, because if stop had somehow found a way to hit on top of everything else, that would have just been an utter travesty.
definitely would have. So the Ruse is doing what it's supposed to do, evading quite a bit. So let's hope we can keep it going. This is where you missed out, unfortunately, on having those tempers and that fast up, because only 5 hits for 221 on one of those Phantoms. 5 hits 362. Five hits 423. Damage poison come out. All right, now we got to get these liches out before they roll new. Ink free turn with the miss. One of the liches goes.
Oh no!
I thought he was gonna be able. Oh man,
He almost had it. Almost had it.
it hurts.
If nothing else, we can definitely attest to Dark Moon's tenacity, because this is now his fifth try at the final boss. And so it's interesting, I think, because Dark Moon saw Tiamat with nuclear and then promptly noped out of it. That, I think, was his first entry into Topher. So he noped out of that and then went to the left side where you had gone with Lich and Carry, because what's worse, I guess, than a first turn nuclear?
Well, it's interesting because I just noticed that Dark Moon during that last Lich 2 battle did nearly 800 damage to Lich 2, and Lich 2 still survived. So he clearly rolled near that 150% mark on what he could roll. So Lich 2 is not messing around.
Oh no, not a bit.
Like, you need to take everything down. Like, AoE needs to be a thing, because Lich, you know that Nuke is in the chamber somewhere. You know that Stop is also in the chamber, and we got Inferno, which is, a fire elemental thing. You gotta kill these things quickly, and that's kind of what I've always viewed this battle. And he has not taken a single one of them down, and yet he is just down to his one lonely fighter. We know there are two that could be particularly out there, and gosh.
Yeah, this has turned into a bit of a nightmare for Dark Moon, unfortunately, as he makes his now sixth attempt.
And Dangwu corrected me. Lich has 1,000 HP, which goes to prove, like, whenever alternative final boss is on, and Lich rolls into that, he actually has more experience than he would have based on scaling. I want to say it's like another 25% more scaling. So he basically rolled as high as he could possibly roll in this particular scaling, because it's only 150, and normal Lich only rolled about 750 because he has 500 HP. So clearly, like Dangwu said, around 1,000 HP, which is just, that's really high for Lich 2.
Yeah. And now Dark Moon is getting the wrong end of... Oh my goodness, he seems to be getting the wrong end of everything possible now. He's been getting infernoed by Lich. He fell prey to an unrunnable spider before even getting into the fight with Lich.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to actually have to say, with the fact that we've got all these undead, like, throwing out a Quake might not be a bad idea. Like, you got 3 Quake casters. You could probably take out the Liches pretty easily with them.
Yeah. It actually strikes me as a little bit of a curiosity, but the last time that Dark Moon reset before he went into Topher, did he not have the gold bracelet and other items equipped before going in these last few times? Because I saw him equipping them. I don't know if he... it seemed like he didn't have them equipped, which obviously plays into why he was getting such bad damage rolls, or at least getting hit so hard. Alright, so we have attempt number 10? I think? Something like that. Now, granted, a couple of them were he got hit with Inferno and noped out, so those weren't full attempts, but still, this poor Dark Moon, this Topher has just been terrifying. It looks like he is by and large continuing with the same strategy of getting the fighter all prepped up to start smashing through the opposition. I'm presuming he either doesn't have enough faith in Quake's ability to be able to do much of anything, or he just didn't think he had good enough AoEs to be able to take out those phantoms quickly and thus try to at least mitigate some of this damage coming at him.
I mean, he tried Quaking before and he got one Lich off, but then he had 2 rounds of nothing, so I don't know if he wants to waste rounds in his mind, especially when he did get close enough with that one turn with the Knight, so it ain't looking too nice right now, unfortunately.
He's in a really bad state right now because we've already seen Stop and we've seen Inferno, which means we know that Nuke's coming up next and he has no HP to deal with that.
Yeah, so he's going after those liches, which is, I mean, obviously anything that he can do to get these guys down to try to mitigate that damage or avoid it entirely is good. And that second lich goes down, so he's starting to get chipped away if he can avoid these damage runs. It looks like the ruse is doing its work. So,
Bruising.
Yep. That looks like he may very well have it this time.
There we go.
All right. GG. Dark Moon with an official SRL time of 1 hour, 20 minutes, 22 seconds. Oh my goodness. That was quite the Topher, and we are joined in chat by Dark Moon. GG Dark Moon, and our deepest sympathies on a ridiculous short Topher.
It happens. I mean, part of that was my fault. I realized after my first real dive that was going well that I completely forgot to re-equip everyone because I did it while I was in the dungeon. That's on me. But still, I mean, what was I, like 24 health away from it at the end? I mean, that's just... ugh.
Yeah, I think my black belt had about as much health when I finished.
Yeah, no, that was gross. And that was pure luck right there, because, I mean, I think I only had 2 ruse casts up, and in the past, they were still getting me every once in a while, so it was like I'm holding A and praying, but I'm sitting there going, any second now, they're gonna hit me, are they gonna hit me? It was just, it was roulette at that point, whether or not I got hit or not. So.
Thank goodness you didn't.
Yeah, so I didn't have to go back in there again. I was giving it to the 130 mark, and then I was just going to forfeit at that point. Rampage is supposed to be fast. Those bosses did not want to let that happen.
Not today.
No.
Well, to be fair, Rampage was fast until the final boss rampaged both of you.
Yeah, oh my god. Yeah, I mean, a different boss like the Chaos and Friends would have easily, like, just been down in a second, because I had the right party for a Chaos. I did not have the right party for the Undead Party Pack.
It's funny you said that. I did not have the right party for the Undead Pack either yet.
Did you take a White Mage?
No.
See, there's a problem.
I ran the same party as you, but with a black belt.
Yeah, see, the White Mage would have totally, with the Fade, would have at least helped a little Fade in Viz 2, get the casts up faster. Because it was like, even after 1 ruse, they were starting to miss. A couple of Invis 2 casts right there, and that boss would have been nothing to worry about.
It was just, chance was like out of control.
Yeah, total luck seed that particular time. But that happens with the alt final bosses. It's the way it is. But even still, like, I mean, we'd probably slot an hour 30 for this on the marathon, and we both came in way under that. So
Yeah, you both had pretty good setups really for this. I would say probably the biggest difference, because there wasn't much of a difference. You guys entered Topher the first time about 5 minutes apart.
yeah,
Uh,
and that's mostly down to bad menuing and bad routing for anything else.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I was going to say the biggest difference was essentially the difference between your two strategies was, of course, you had the fighter and
Yep.
you, of course, prioritizing gear and good levels. And Gregley prioritized the black belt and got the grind tile that he wanted in the Hall of Giants.
Oh yeah, see, I didn't even check it. I wasn't worried about a grind tile because with the fighter you can just walk and grind and get up to 24, 25, which normally at 150% scaling is exactly what you need. And then really, like, I think time difference in Topher came down to the fact that it was a 50-50 coin flip whether or Ice Cave or Deals had the item I needed to finish out the game. And I ended up getting the one that was a double fetch quest that led to money. So, like, I lost 5 minutes there. I probably would have been getting into Topher around the same time Gregley was the first time, if not for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, both of you did really well in pretty much just about every area. It's just that Topher was nasty.
Yep. And if I'd had a grind tile, what grind tile did you use, Gregley?
First tile in the Hall of Giants was eyes.
Nice.
And
See,
I found them really early.
Yeah.
But they had kind of high HP, so I emptied out all the lit 3 charges that I had so I could gain some money. And then I went back to them once I had all the key items I wanted so that the grind would go quicker.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, if you find the eyes early, that's fantastic. Like, that just makes the seed right there. If those eyes had been hiding somewhere, though, I'm sure your seed would have been just a little more of a struggle. So, I mean,
I found a few other things too. I mean, I found the Gasties, but they had way more hit points than I could deal with.
Yeah.
With a particular party.
Yeah.
Well, GG to you both. Thank you guys for giving us a fantastic, nice, and speedy race, except for the last boss.
I'm sure that was a show.
It was definitely quite the show. Do you guys Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say that final boss right there. It's a clencher.
Yeah, no kidding. Definitely all sorts of drama in that last one.
Yeah.
So, do you guys have any final thoughts as we go ahead and say farewell for the evening?
Well, I think I like these flags, especially with the way that they're set up right now with the slightly lower XP than we usually run on this flag set. Because it makes you think about whether the fighter or the black belt is really the way to go, and having the Mazamoon in there kind of encourages either play. And you saw with the gear that I found, I just happened to randomly stumble upon the gear that I wanted from a couple of quick read checks. That's the benefit of, like, having a few different pieces of gear out there that are worth finding is just, you can settle for a few different builds and it's not a big deal. I think this particular flag set can show off both party styles without it, like, really leaning towards one type or the other and, like, outweighing scales.
I'd have to agree with that. I think that, with these particular flags, you look at them and you think, oh, well, black belt's clearly the thing because of the XP, but then the alternative final boss could make the black belt play not so great. I mean, it worked out for me this particular time, but I kind of have to agree with Darkman, and I appreciate Randomania for having us out here. And I enjoy these flags. I like fast flags. I don't have much time in my life, so anytime I can get a flag done in under an hour, I'm very excited.
Absolutely. Well, thank you both for joining us and for running this seed, and thank you to everybody who helped us out with the broadcast this evening. Duchess, do you want to take us out for tonight?
Sounds good. Again, gonna thank Darkmoon and Gregley Puff for putting on a great race for us. GG's to you both. Want to give a shout out to my co-commentator, Karant, in the booth with me. Also, got to give a shout out to Danny for taking some quality notes for us, and also Dangwoo for restreaming. It's been a great run. I hope everyone has had a great night. Check us out, FinalFantasyRandomizer.com. Join the Discord, etc., etc. And yeah, we will see you on the other side.